You know that feeling? The weeks right before your performance review, where you suddenly feel the need to work like an absolute superhero, all in the hopes of landing that big pay raise? Yeah, it's a super common strategy, but honestly, it's a trap. So today, we're talking about a career cautionary tale for anyone who's ambitious and really wants to get ahead. Let's break down why that last-minute push so often backfires.
Come on, be honest. Have you ever done this? You see that annual review pop up on the calendar, and bam, you suddenly find a whole new gear. You transform into the office superhero, right? Ready to save any project, solve any problem, hoping it all translates into a bigger paycheck. We've all seen it happen, and let's be real, a lot of us have probably done it ourselves.
But here's the thing. That very impulse, that's what I call the superhero trap. It feels so productive, it feels completely logical, but from a manager's point of view, it's built on a huge miscalculation about how performance is actually seen and rewarded.
So here's how it usually plays out. For, say, 10 months of the year, your performance is solid. It's consistent, it's just business as usual. But then, with that review getting closer and closer, it's like a switch flips in your brain. And that sense of urgency, it just skyrockets.
And this is what that pre-review scramble looks like, right? The occasional late night suddenly becomes the norm. Your hand is the first one in the air for any new task or project. You're actively hunting down extra responsibilities, creating this whirlwind of high visibility activity right as you're approaching the finish line.
And the logic inside your head makes perfect sense, doesn't it? I'm showing them what I can really do. I'm demonstrating my maximum capability. There's no way they can ignore this incredible burst of value when they're deciding my raise. It really feels like you're building this airtight case for yourself.
But here's where we see the flaw in that logic, all laid out. You've got 10 months of just steady work. Then 1 month of a superhero phase, followed by 2 weeks of just absolute maximum overdrive. But all of that effort leads to a verdict on review day that feels totally disconnected from that final push.
And then comes the anticlimax. You're in the review meeting, you get the praise, you get the, hey, we really appreciate the recent push, and the classic, thank you for all your hard work. But the number, the compensation that follows, it's just underwhelming. It doesn't even come close to reflecting the superhero effort you just put in.
This is the question that's just ringing in your ears as you walk out of that meeting. You're confused, you're frustrated, and, maybe even a little demoralized. You feel like you gave it everything you had at the end. So what went wrong? Well, the answer isn't about doing more, it's about doing it differently.
So to really understand what happened, we need to completely switch perspectives. We have to pull back the curtain and take a look at the manager's scorecard, because how performance is actually measured is almost always the missing piece of the puzzle.
Okay, so this is the crucial point right here. A performance evaluation isn't a snapshot of your last month. It's a full-length feature film of your entire year. It's designed to measure your consistent contribution and your impact over the full 12-month period. That final sprint you did, it's just one scene in a much, much longer movie.
In this slide, wow, it just perfectly illustrates the huge disconnect. While you're thinking, my recent push is the closing argument that proves my value, your manager is actually thinking, the decision on this was mostly made weeks ago. You see those extra hours as proof of commitment? They see a 12-month marathon, not a 2-week sprint. And while you think you're building your case for a raise, the reality is corporate budgets and salary pools were likely set in stone months ago. The initial ratings were probably drafted long before your heroic push even started. So, to put it bluntly, by the time you start that mad dash to influence your review, the big decisions have often already been made. The ship, for the most part, has already sailed. That feeling of building momentum is kind of an illusion. You're running hard, but the race is already over. So how do you avoid this trap? You have to make a big shift in your mindset. You have to go from that reactive, last-minute work to creating strategic, long-term value. It's all about playing the long game. And that requires a much smarter strategy.
All right, so this is the new playbook. First, at the start of the year, you sit down and align your goals with what the company and your boss actually value. Second, don't save up all your wins for the end of your review. Make your contributions visible all year long. Third, use your one-on-ones and your check-ins to proactively track and talk about your progress. And finally, and this is a big one, focus on impact. It's not about being the busiest person in the room. It's about delivering measurable results that matter, consistently.
And that brings us to the core takeaway of this whole thing. The choice isn't really between working hard and not working hard. It's about where and when you decide to apply all that energy. It really is the difference between raw effort and strategic impact.
Just look at this comparison. The overachiever, they focus on that recent burst of effort, and they're hoping it gets noticed. They try to overcompensate at the very end. The strategic professional, on the other hand, is focused on consistent impact across the entire year. They don't just hope to be noticed, they ensure their value is positioned and visible over the long term.
And this is the one line to remember. That last-minute scramble, man, it feels productive, it feels heroic, it feels good. But in the reality of the corporate world, it's strategy, planned, consistent, and visible over time that truly gets rewarded. So the real question isn't how hard you can work in the final 2 weeks, but how smart you can work for all 52.